Cave exploration can be an exhilarating adventure, but it also comes with inherent dangers. Throughout history, there have been some truly tragic and horrific cave deaths that serve as stark reminders of the risks involved. From freak accidents to tragic misadventures, these stories highlight the darker side of spelunking and the ultimate cost of human curiosity. 32-year-old Gregory Wilhelm and his 3 buddies, 2 guys and 2 gals, are living their best vacation life in Maui, Hawaii. They're soaking up the sun, snapping selfies, and doing all the classic touristy stuff. One day, they decide to check out Wayanapanapa State Park. You know, the kind of place that makes you want to launch a travel blog. Everything was going great until it wasn't. While wandering around, the crew stumbled upon the legendary Wayanapanapa Caves. Intrigued and running on vacation adrenaline, the group paused by a serene, well-lit pool at the cave's mouth. The women opted to chill poolside, probably imagining spa vibes, while Gregory, powered by curiosity and maybe a little too much confidence, roped one of the guys into a spontaneous cave exploration mission. Now, they didn't have a flashlight, but Gregory, ever the problem solver, shoved his phone into a Ziploc bag to keep it dry and turned it into an impromptu flashlight. Not exactly Bear Grylls approved, but hey, it worked for a while. So Gregory and his fellow explorer waded into the cave like it was the beginning of a treasure hunting adventure. A few feet in, the water was already at their waists. Ahead, a massive boulder, and beneath it, a dark, deep pool that apparently was a hotspot for thrill-seeking divers. Naturally, they decided to give it a quick dive. Just a minute underwater, they said. Just a little peek, no big deal. Gregory led the way with his trusty phone light while his buddy followed closely behind. But things took a wild turn when they realized the pool was a lot deeper than expected. Gregory, fueled by that just one more peek energy, swam into a narrow underwater passage. That's when his friend, now absolutely done with this adventure, freaked out and made a silent exit, leaving Gregory solo in the watery abyss. By the time Gregory realized he was on his own, he needed air, badly, but when he turned around, he was met with total darkness. Cue panic mode. He fumbled through the underwater maze and managed to find a tiny pocket of air, like something straight out of an action movie. But the cave was like a living creature, unpredictable and wild. Waves thrashed, currents shifted, and the clock was ticking. With no choice, Gregory pushed deeper into the cave. Meanwhile, the guy who bailed managed to find his way back to the surface, gasping for breath at the pool's edge. Gregory, however, was MIA. Panic spread fast. The 2 women dashed into the cave, talk about bravery, found the guy totally freaking out, and knew things were serious. The guy, guilt now fully unlocked, dove back into the cave, telling the women to scream so he could use their voices like human GPS. After a couple failed dives, he finally spotted something, a faint glow in the distance. It was Gregory's phone, still valiantly shining, but Gregory? Nowhere in sight. They sprinted out and called the Hana Fire Department, kicking off a full-blown rescue operation. Sadly, by the time help arrived, it was too late. Reports revealed Gregory had lost his bearings in a tight spot. The more he tried to escape, the more disoriented he became. Eventually, he took a wrong turn, and his breath ran out in the cave's suffocating darkness. On September 17, 2000, brothers Michael and Paul Hayden decided it was time for a little nostalgic adventure, or what some might call a terrible idea wrapped in childhood memories. They headed into Goss Canyon in La Crescenta, Montrose, California, to revisit a cave they had explored many times as kids with their 4 other siblings. This wasn't just any cave. It was like nature's own booby-trapped funhouse, complete with dry ledges, mysterious holes, and a deep, dark water pool that dropped about 100 feet. Because, hey, who doesn't love a little danger with their reminiscing? To get in, they had to squeeze through a cozy little cave mouth about the size of a dishwasher, just 3 by 4 feet, leading to a narrow 50-foot horizontal tunnel. Paul, being the brave one, or maybe just the one with cooler gear, took the lead. And he wasn't your average weekend spelunker. He was a master sergeant and elite scuba diver in the Air Force Pararescue Force. Basically, if anyone could handle this, it was him. He strapped on his scuba gear, enough air for 2 hours, and a GoPro on his head to light the way and record the epic journey. Meanwhile, Michael stayed back by the water pool like the world's most responsible cave lifeguard. The brothers rigged up a rope system, tying one end to a big old boulder in the main cave. Michael would tug the rope occasionally like, "Hey, you good?" And Paul would tug back like, "All good, bro." For the first 20 minutes, it was all smooth sailing, or rather, smooth tugging, but then nothing. Michael gave the rope a double yank. Silence. He tried again. Still nothing. Worse, the rope had gone stiff and immobile. Never a good sign. Thinking Paul might be stuck, Michael gave it everything he had, yanking like his life, or, more accurately, Paul's life, depended on it. When that didn't work, he bolted from the cave faster than a teenager sneaking in past curfew and called in the pros. The local fire department wasted no time. Soon enough, they were joined by the LA Sheriff's Office and the LA Fire Department, rushing to the scene like it was a Hollywood action movie. When rescuers located Paul's GoPro, they reviewed the footage, and what they found was haunting. The video captured the moment Paul reached an abandoned water shaft and removed his regulator to take a breath from an air pocket. Now, here's the thing about air pockets in creepy old caves. They're not exactly spa-quality oxygen bars. These pockets don't circulate fresh air. Instead, they stew in a gross cocktail of decay gases from surrounding soil, rock, and whatever unlucky critters decomposed nearby. Add in gases released from water-eroded stone, and you've got yourself a bubble full of CO2 doom. Even though Paul was a skilled scuba diver, he wasn't a certified cave diver. He knew the risks and usually carried a lighter to test air quality. Light the flame, and if it flickers out, you bail. But that day, he didn't have his lighter. He took a breath anyway, assuming the air would be fine just for a second. It wasn't. The footage ended with Paul slipping beneath the water, making no move to replace his regulator. He passed out instantly, overcome by the toxic air. Within a minute or two, he had drowned, silently, suddenly, and tragically. March the 26th, 2016. Cue the dramatic music because today's the day two elite-level cave divers, Mike Young and Shane Thompson, yep, a legit Navy vet, gear up for an underwater odyssey in the not-so-friendly, absolutely mysterious Santa Rosa Blue Hole in New Mexico. This place isn't some lazy river amusement ride. It's more like Mother Nature's underwater funhouse, with a dark past. You see, the Blue Hole got shut down way back in 1976 after two divers tragically met their end in its depths. For 40 years it remained sealed, undisturbed, and haunting. That is, until a team of 10 brave souls said, "Let's open Pandora's swimming pool again," and dove right in. For the first 2 days, things went fairly smoothly. The team poked around the tunnels like deep-sea detectives, mapping out areas no one had seen for decades. But day 3, that was the real adventure. Mike and Shane had one job: explore a super-tight tunnel at 140 feet and then, if they still had wiggle room, literally, check out another squeeze at 165 feet. The plan was clear. Mike would go through the tightest bits solo, and Shane would chill at 165 feet and wait. Mike, doing his best impression of a contortionist submarine, twisted and squirmed his way through the rock-filled passages like he was auditioning for an underwater yoga class. Meanwhile, Shane was supposed to sit tight, but curiosity, that old troublemaker, got the best of him. Whether it was FOMO or the thrill of the unknown, Shane broke formation and followed Mike into the depths, completely against the plan. Creeping along, dodging boulders and sliding through twisty, claustrophobic turns, Shane eventually hit a silt-filled 3-foot opening. That's when things got real dicey. His back-mounted rebreather caught on a protruding rock. He flailed, twisted, tried to Houdini his way out, but nothing worked. He was stuck, and the clock was ticking. Suddenly, whack, Mike's arm smacked into Shane's head. Boom, underwater reunion. Nearly 200 feet down, they locked eyes. Shane blurted out, "Bro, I'm stuck." Mike, cool as ever, pulled off some deep-sea hero moves and freed Shane like a pro. But in the chaos, their only lifeline, the precious guideline, got nudged out of place. Whoops. Mike was now alone in a rock maze with no GPS. Meanwhile, Shane, still running on panic mode, bolted ahead and got tangled in the line. He freed himself, sure, but also lost it. Now, floating alone with no direction and anxiety spiking, he started hyperventilating, which is exactly what you don't want when using a rebreather. Enter Mike again, like Aquaman with better timing, grabs Shane and tries to guide him out. But then Shane, in full-blown panic, dives under Mike and gets stuck again. In the frantic struggle, he kicks Mike square in the face, shreds his suit, and leaves him soaked with 52 degrees Fahrenheit water. Not exactly the buddy system. Shane, now on his emergency air tank, charges ahead, only to get trapped a third time. Mike, thinking his partner was ahead, follows the line, until he realizes Shane's missing. His heart drops. He backtracks and finds Shane wedged in a narrow gap. Gear in tatters, mouthpiece out, tank empty. It was too late. Mike tried to save him, but there was nothing more he could do. With a heavy heart, he swam out alone to report the tragedy. The next day, he returned by himself, navigating the treacherous boulder field again, not just to retrieve a body, but to honor a friend lost in the deep. On a chilly afternoon around 3:45 p.m. on November 28, 1985, 7 adventurous souls decided to ditch turkey leftovers and go for something a bit more extreme, caving. Their original plan was to explore Freyr's Hole, but thanks to some not-so-friendly rain flooding the place, they switched gears and chose Fuller's entrance of the Culverson Creek Cave in Greenbrier County, West Virginia. Sounds like a safe plan B, right? Well, not exactly. Here's the thing. None of the group had ever been in Fuller's before. You know, just a casual spelunk in unfamiliar territory. What could go wrong? The entrance of the cave was a narrow canyon, only about 5 to 8 feet wide, with a fast-flowing stream, about 6 to 12 inches deep, gushing over wobbly rock slabs. Not exactly a 5-star hiking trail. Roughly 50 feet in, the path sloped downward, and smack dab in the middle of it all sat a hefty boulder, chilling in the stream like it owned the place. At 3:50 p.m., 3 of the cavers made it past the boulder with no issues. The next trio followed, led by 26-year-old Eric Sackley. But when Eric got to the center of that giant rock, Mother Nature decided to throw a curveball. With a sudden shift, the boulder tilted left, like it had just remembered an appointment, and pinned Eric's head in a horrifying upright position. His friends immediately jumped into action. One sprinted back to get help while the rest tried to free him. 4 people against 1 rock? The rock wasn't budging. It was basically saying, "Nice try." Thinking quickly, one caver supported Eric from below to keep pressure off his neck, while the others rummaged through the cave entrance, MacGyver style, searching for anything that could work as a lever. Someone found old truck parts, because of course there's random truck debris in a cave, but even that wasn't enough muscle to lift the boulder. So, another caver was sent out to grab a hydraulic auto jack, a car jack that could lift a small house if needed, and another contacted the Eastern Region Cave Rescue Network. Things were escalating fast. By 4:10 p.m., tragedy deepened. Eric lost consciousness less than half a minute after the rock pinned him. Despite that, at 3:59 p.m., one of the group, John Evans, felt his pulse, and it was still going strong. There was hope. Time, however, was not on their side. Around 4:20 p.m., their hero tool, the hydraulic jack, finally made its dramatic entrance. Combined with some trusty crowbars, the team managed to shift the stubborn boulder. They carefully moved Eric about 20 feet to a dry spot and immediately started CPR. The rescue squad from Rainek showed up like cavalry soon after, with a paramedic taking over at 4:29 p.m. Things were looking cautiously optimistic. Eric was rushed out on a stretcher and whisked away by ambulance to the hospital. On the way, medical pros tried everything: IVs, cardiac meds, the whole 9 yards. But despite all the efforts, nothing could bring him back. Eric Sackley was officially pronounced dead at 6:05 p.m. It was a heartbreaking end to what started as an adventurous detour. The story of Culverson Creek Cave is a somber reminder that even the boldest of explorers face real dangers in the deep unknown. One misstep, or in this case one shifting boulder, can change everything in seconds. Jon Jones, a 26-year-old thrill-seeker, sets his sights on Nutty Putty Cave in the Utah desert, just outside Salt Lake City. Now, this isn't his first rodeo with caving. He and his brother Josh had explored various caves around Utah before. But Nutty Putty, that was a whole new beast. It was a popular cave, known for being relatively beginner-friendly, with spots like a huge maze and a giant slide that anyone could check out. But it also had some tricky areas, including the infamous birth canal, a narrow squeeze that only the most experienced adventurers dared to tackle. Jon wasn't alone on this trip. He had a crew of 11, including family and friends, tagging along. While the cave had been closed off for a while due to some accidents, Josh managed to score a special permit, and on November 24, 2009, the group was allowed inside. The rest of the crew stuck to the easy stuff, but Jon and Josh, they had different plans. Let's find something a bit more challenging, they thought, and off they went to explore the tighter, more intense parts of the cave. They made their way to the birth canal, which was pretty much the tightest squeeze in the entire cave. After successfully navigating that, they found the corkscrew, a winding, twisted tunnel that only the bravest, or most daring, would attempt. Now, 5 years prior, another caver named Brock Clark had gotten stuck in the corkscrew for 14 hours, but Jon wasn't intimidated. At 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, he figured he'd be fine. Little did he know, he was about to enter uncharted territory. He kept pushing forward, thinking he was still navigating the birth canal, but things quickly went sideways. Jon slid deeper into the tunnel, his feet kicking as he tried to hold on and push back up. He called out to Josh to stop, and they started trying to figure out how to get him unstuck. Jon spotted a hole ahead, thinking it would lead to a larger space, but nope, it was a dead end. And just like that, Jon was wedged upside down, stuck in an 18 by 10-inch hole. Desperation set in as he screamed for help, but Josh's attempts to pull him out didn't work. After a while, Josh, now exhausted, had to leave to get help, leaving Jon to hang upside down, the pressure from gravity slowly making things worse. Fast forward 3 hours, and the first rescuer arrives. The team tried using ropes to pull Jon out, but that didn't work either. They then set up a pulley system, the same kind that had freed Brock Clark years earlier. It took hours, but finally, Jon was raised enough for the rescuer to make eye contact with him and even give him some Gatorade. Unfortunately, Jon's legs had turned lifeless and were no longer helping the situation. They seriously considered breaking his legs to get him out, but then, just as they were getting closer to freeing him, disaster struck. The pulley rope snapped, hitting the rescuer in the face and knocking him out cold. As if things weren't crazy enough, Jon slipped back into the hole, and the team had to spend another hour repairing the pulley system before they could try again. When they finally attempted to pull him out once more, Jon didn't respond. Panic set in as they realized they couldn't lift him without his assistance. A medic was sent inside the cave to check on Jon, but by 11:56 p.m. on November 25th, Jon was declared dead. The cave was closed off with concrete, and a plaque was placed to honor his life. It's a tragic adventure that no one could have predicted. A story of bravery, perseverance, and an unfortunate twist of fate that ended too soon.